Hello, everybody. We just watched Shiva Baby, which, if I'm not mistaken, is my second film I've seen in 2021.
We're not counting
other
the
than
one we
Snyder
lost.
Cut.
The last one we watched, which was technically 2021, I think, but it's not, depending on what release country you're counting in. Earwig.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Earwig.
Earwig.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Earwig might. Then it might be my third.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm counting the Snyder Cut. So
Okay. Yeah, that
I've
makes
seen the
sense.
Snyder Cut. Mark hasn't. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm Kevin.
Yeah, Mark.
And
Yeah.
Mark. Yeah, and we just watched Shiva Baby, and
So
what'd you think, Mark?
So you threw this film at me.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything.
it was a film that premiered at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, as well as Sundance.
So I like the tension we have right now because we watched this film separately and we have no idea what the other person thinks, which I think is really cool.
I like that too.
Um,
I want to guess your star rating. I just like guessing.
okay,
I
so
don't
guess
know
my
why.
star rating. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna say yours is like a 4.
Okay. It's 5 stars.
What do you think? It's 5?
It's 5, a full solid 5. I love this.
All right, what do you think
to
mine
death.
is then?
4 or 4.5.
3.5.
Wow, we're gonna have
yeah.
a good, interesting discussion about this.
This is what I'm hoping.
I wonder if that
because
clipped. Might turn down a little bit.
No. Well, I guess mine.
We'll
didn't
find out
get
later,
it.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm not editing
Yeah,
that.
and the occasional clipping will, it's still early days for the resurgence of this channel.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
But yeah, believe it or not, I'm going to start my opinions with this.
Sure.
The moment that, as I was watching this movie, I was thinking, I hope Mark has a lot to say about this because I almost don't want to do an episode.
Wow.
Which, yeah.
Okay, I feel like we feel pretty. Okay, so
So spoiler-free corner, let's go.
I'm not sure what I can say about this film without talking a lot about spoilers because, like you said, this is a film that's best gone into blind. I totally agree with you there.
For sure. So if you are familiar with the term sort of like a Sundance thriller, a Sundance character piece, and you tend to like those, then you'll probably like this film. This film has a lot of Sundance characteristics. And me having gone to the festival twice, I can say that with full confidence. And Sundance pieces I tend to treat each one individually because I'm always surprised with what I like and don't like about this typical type of Sundance drama. So that's the only thing I can say.
I can understand that. This is a very, I want to say conventional film, but it's a conventional film. It's a conventional contemporary film.
It is quite contemporary.
Yes.
I'll say one other thing, just because this needs to be out there. If you're Jewish and you want to feel very uncomfortable, please watch this. Spoiler time. Anything else?
There's one more thing I'll say before we do
Not spoiler time.
full into spoilers. The reason that I loved this so much, I'm just going to straight out say it, I really loved this, is because it's very similar to theater and a style of theater that I really love, which is
fascinating.
Yes, which is very fast-paced, written in a very specific way that is very tight and very controlled, and I live for this stuff. It's fantastic. And
we're going to have so much to talk about.
we're going to have a lot to talk about because
Also, I mean, I knew you were in theater, obviously, and you were passionate about it. I never knew this is the specific type of dialogue that you like.
Oh, yes. I mean, I can tell you a lot about this style because I've worked with it myself. I would even argue that this is very similar to the type of theater that I write personally because this is the type of theater that I was inspired by.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, on that note, I think we'll head to spoilers
All right. Yeah. So,
officially.
yeah.
How
So,
do we begin? Yeah.
I guess I'll say. So I Googled a little bit, thinking of like, oh, what are all those playwrights that write in this style that I can reference to? There are two that come to mind. A work, which is Almost Maine, which is a very popular high school piece, which is, I think, the most well-known work that is in this contemporary style, which is something I actually did a sound design production for in college.
And I also went to, and I didn't care for the play very much at all.
Okay, so which it totally makes sense that this is not your thing then, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the actors I remember in that play very much played along with the rapid dialogue style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, and I attributed my dislike of it to the actors. But if you say that play's supposed to be like that, then I stand corrected, I guess.
I mean, there is a lot of ways you can go with it, and the reason this play is so well known is because it's done by a lot of amateur groups like high schools and such.
Yeah.
But the reason of that is that it's very approachable, and it's
cozy.
It's cozy, and it's also just very fun because of how tight
it's got the theater memes because you're going to be saying Jeezum Crow for the next 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's the theater kid's dream. This kind of writing, and kind of performance.
Interesting, because this reminds me of a movie called Fences, starring Denzel Washington, which is adapted from a play.
Okay.
And man, is that movie wordy. It's just so wordy. And that film got a lot of Oscar nominations and a lot of high ratings, and I just couldn't stand it. Because I guess, when put into a cinematic context, I guess this just isn't what I'm looking for exactly.
That's understandable. I mean, I found myself, I instantly, in like the first 10 minutes, this instantly felt like a play to me. And I watched pretty much the entire film with that perspective.
Okay, that's really cool because I'm going to say my counterpart to that right now, which is from the first 10 minutes, I thought, oh, this feels like one of those very rapid-fire TV shows that I scoff at usually.
Interesting, okay.
Where like everyone talking on top of each other and things are going really fast and everyone's kind of really smart in a way that isn't too realistic.
Like, do you mean like a danger, love at work, that whatever, what is that genre
like
called?
A screwball comedy?
Yeah, screwball comedy.
Well, screwball comedy feels different because there's a certain old Hollywood accent and a manner of speaking that comes to it. Because, like you said, this film is so contemporary, it is... I do treat it in a different context because it feels like a modern TV show. Like I watched one episode of Russian Doll, which came out last year, and it felt like that. I mean, because you're coming from it from a play perspective, I can't say that we're coming into this from the same vantage point. Like a lot of the things that it reminds me of might not strike you as similar at all.
Yeah, I have a suspicion that your association with this style is with a lot of films and TV that have maybe do this already. I remember you saying in the beginning that this is like the Sundance action flick, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not actually because of the dialogue. The fact that it's like a Sundance drama. We'll get to that in a bit. I don't think we should go into that yet because that's very much I think it'll be pretty one-sided. But I guess I'm talking about my TV thing as well, so whatever. But no, the reason... So the thing with Russian Doll is that people talk on top of one another, but usually with this fast dialogue type of... When it's put in a TV show context, it usually means that there are a lot of pop culture references that come along with it. It feels like everyone is trying to be like a master dialogue person. Tarantino doesn't reference pop culture, but sort of like everyone's trying to be Marvel. Everyone's trying to reference pop culture as fast as possible and think, oh, I get that. Oh, I don't quite get that. you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's because, you know, this movie obviously does not reference pop culture like the other ones, but the rhythm reminded me of those other pieces of media that tends to have the pop culture references bundled along with it. So that was my first impression, where I got really wary because there are a lot of shows. And again, because I'm not familiar with theater, I didn't really associate with that. But there are a lot of shows that do stuff like that. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? But I agree with you, Mark, that the more I watched it, the more it felt like this style was right for the movie. It felt like the director and writer had something to say in this rapid fire style. And it did a really good job building the tension. It did a really good job, just fitting all the characters. Each character is still somewhat distinct, and the movie knows what to make the audience feel.
Mm-hmm.
And we still sympathize with the main character in a way that a lot of these TV shows don't do. Because the thing with these TV shows and the way they do rapid fire conversation is that it gets to a point where everyone sounds like they're the same character. Everyone sounds like they were written by a room full of writers who are just throwing pop culture references on a wall and seeing what sticks.
Can you give a few more examples of what you're talking about there? Because I didn't recognize your first example.
Oh, yeah. Well, Russian Doll is this TV show that got a lot of acclaim. It's sort of like a Groundhog Day sort of concept, but I don't The Good Place does it a little bit, but the jokes are really good and the character development's phenomenal, so I can't really fault it on that. But
I know of The Good Place, but I haven't seen it. Yeah, like you're versed in TV,
phenomenal.
or
Yeah.
I guess you are. You weren't last time we did this.
Yeah.
And I'm versed in the theater, at least in relative to the style.
Yeah,
So,
well, there was this one
we're coming
night
at this from completely different perspectives.
Exactly. There's this one night post-pandemic from 2020, last year, where I just sat down, I went on Netflix, and I watched like the first 10 minutes of 6 different shows.
Holy shit.
Just the first 10 minutes. It was like this weird.
That sounds
just
wild.
Like, okay. Because usually I don't like TV for the exact reasons I said. So this is a good time to actually talk about that, because I watched the first 10 minutes of like, is it a Sabrina the Teenage Witch spoof or like a spin-off?
You mean like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something?
No, not Buffy. There's like The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's supposed to be a spin-off on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And I did not like it because right from the beginning I felt like everyone was written by the same room of people. And they were talking too fast and they were like making a few pop culture references, and I'm like, okay, it's like that specific type of catering towards the audience. Oh, another example is Mindhunter, which actually was made by David Fincher, or produced by him. Mm-hmm. I watched the first episode of that and could not stand it because everyone was talking over each other in this flat way. But you could tell the screenwriters were just so proud of everything they're coming up with. Mm-hmm. You know, and I can even attribute this type of writing to one specific person, and that's Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin is a scriptwriter who wrote, he's most known for The Social Network.
Oh.
Which, I mean, that's phenomenal. He also wrote Steve Jobs. Because Aaron Sorkin is actually good at that stuff, everyone wants to be Aaron Sorkin when they do TV and film. And most people are terrible at it. I guess I'll stop there because I feel like Mark is just thinking about Almost Maine while we're talking about this.
Yeah, another playwright that comes to mind is David Ives. I forget if it's him or... Okay, I want to tell you about a specific device that's used in plays.
Ooh, tell me, please.
That's like this. Okay, so you know how there is a specific device that is used in scripts to notate how characters talk over each other.
Okay.
And
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, and listening to this film, it almost sounded like they were using that notation, because there were times in the film where they would have extended sequences where two characters would have dialogue overlapping each other for very long periods of time. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a million different ways you can write this down, but the one that has become hip in contemporary theater is to use a slash to notate when the next character should start speaking. So Does that make sense, or should I explain it a little more?
Oh, yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Okay, yeah. It's a very simple concept, but it's a way of really controlling the timing when you're writing the script. And with this sort of style of fast-paced editing or fast-paced dialogue writing, the flow and rhythm of language is very, very important. And when you're working at something that is this fast, everything has to be tight. So when you're constructing this, and I mean, I have no idea if this is done for this film at a script level or an editing level, or if it's both. But if it's anything like it is in theater, this is done at the script level, where this is all decided in the writing out of the words. And I suspect that's how it's done, because everything here is so tight.
Yeah, I believe it. I definitely believe that it started from the script level.
Yeah.
And it's funny that just now you accidentally said editing when you meant scripting, because what I was going to add on to that was that I felt like even the editing worked in tandem to that. Everything was working in parallel.
Yeah, the editing was really beautiful.
The tension ratcheted up so highly, and it's because the editing was so good when it cut to the other character. It fit the dialogue, and just the overall, just the tone of the film is super sharp. I do agree. I agree with that completely. Is that all you wanted to say about like the technical stuff?
Maybe. I mean, there is more I want to say, but...
Yeah, at some point, you can't elaborate too much on it. But, like, yeah, definitely, I can see from a theater perspective how that's very admirable. But for me, the limited amount of theater that I've experienced, it's always been fascinating to me, the difference between watching a theater and watching a film. And I think because film has those extra elements, like an actual realistic setting and stuff, that I'm more tempted to criticize a film if it's too close to theater. Because of, I guess, just the added immersion that a film could have. I tend to look for something more realistic. Unless it's something like Tarantino, which, if we watch the beginning of Pulp Fiction, they're talking so much, and they're not talking like normal people do, but it's done in such a stylized way where I'm just immediately drawn into this world, because it's not the world I'm familiar with. Whereas in this, everybody talks in just a slightly heightened, mundane way that for me, it was just like, just talk more mundane, and I think I'd be more into it. So again, I gave it, okay, so I'm going to tell you why. Throughout the whole film, I thought this was going to be a 4-star film. It was one of those, I appreciate everything it's doing. I like the way I didn't think the dialogue was for me, but I liked the way it worked. And I didn't like the way the editing worked. Yeah, I saw it was a little too choppy for me, but I still liked the way it worked because those two elements worked together. But it was that ending that made me drop it half a star. I thought it ended at just the most random of places. Tell me what you think of the ending, Mark. Save me. Save this.
I was expecting the ending to come at any time. I was hoping that it would be more unresolved, actually.
Really?
To be honest. Yeah, I kind of wanted her to just like leave the house, credits roll. But that's my avant-gardeness showing, I guess. The way they tied it up kind of met halfway.
Maybe that's why.
I don't know. I had such a high want of it to be unresolved ending. So when they made like kind of a resolved ending that wasn't quite resolved, it was totally fine for me. Because like once it cut to black, I was like, yes, that's it. And I was already enjoying the film so much. Like,
wow,
there's not much it could have done to upset me, really.
Interesting.
But yeah.
I like movies that leave things open-ended. But for this one, I don't know why I wanted the film to come to more of a moral conclusion, like to be more of a moral of the story sort of thing. I don't know why. It just felt like everything that was building up to, in this case, there should be some sort of conclusion or like a thesis statement, if you will. That's a really boring way of putting it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't expecting that at all, though. I wasn't
expecting it either, but the moment it ended, I thought it needed one.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. That's cool. Because what? It's like they just get into the car and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. And then that's it.
I mean, it's funny you say that because I still got a lot out of the movie, to be honest. Like, the way that it characterizes the characters, I mean, that spoke to me a lot. I mean, to be honest.
That's enough. Yeah.
Like, the loudness of the movie. And, okay, something else I was really impressed by, this is only tangential, but we'll keep the conversation moving, was the compactness of the script.
For sure.
Which I don't mean like just in flow, but in delivering information. From the very first scene, I was really impressed with how much it was able to say and how little. Which in theater,
I agree.
Is something,
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, which in theater is something that is absolutely exquisite when you can do well.
Right.
And I thought in this film particularly, they really used film things to do that well in a style that I associate with theater, in doing like close-ups and like getting really gritty details of expressions and putting the camera exactly where it needed to be.
Right.
And also,
or
of
like
course, doing like smutchy stuff, like, you know, the scene where she gets sort of out of it and doing that sort of cinematic stuff, which I mean, is fun. But also stuff like I remember thinking at the time where she punctured her leg with a nail. That's something you could not do in theater, but they did it wonderfully in film and perfectly communicated what happened there.
I agree.
Without any room for interpretation of what physically happened, which in a theater space, that would be very hard to do at that sort of small scale.
Right. Yeah, it definitely felt like, you know, there are films where I criticize for not having an establishing shot. It's like, oh, they didn't set up anything well. I feel like this film did the setup well, but in a way that wasn't redundant at all. It was almost like sometimes I felt like if I missed one word, I would have not understood what happened later.
That's true.
You know, there were little moments like which I really appreciaed. Yeah.
Yeah, the film is so strung down to its essentials. Like missing anything, it can be devastating.
Like they mention Maya, and then she feels tense, and then immediately I'm like, okay, what's this Maya character? And immediately I'm hooked. Mm-hmm. You know, it didn't feel the need to spoon feed the audience anything, which I agree. That's really, really strong stuff.
Yeah, and probably the reason why I'm like, this is such a strong 5 for me is this is the exactly kind of thing that I like to do in my own writing, where it's like you're spoon feeding the audience information in a way where it's causing them to ask a lot of questions about what's going on.
Like one grain of rice at a time.
Yeah, like one grain of rice at a time, and they're having to make their own inductions about what this means for whatever character. Like, just to give an example of like the relationships between the characters in the very beginning, none of that was explicitly stated to us. All we got was reactions and people feeling uncomfortable and shit going down from the start. We're not even given time for exposition. It's just, boom, we're in it.
Right, because the whole film happens in a very short amount of time. And I've seen films that happen, let's say, within one night or one afternoon that really try to bite more than they can chew. Like where they try to do too much with it, you know? Like one example I'm thinking of is High Noon, which is actually a really good film, but it's a 50s Western where the things that the main character does is just a little too much than he could have done.
I haven't seen it,
in
but I'll take your
in an
word for
actual
it.
setting. Yeah, but I liked. Yeah, this feels very small scale. It continues to feel very small scale, and yeah, it is good. And there are other relationships that even by the end, I guess I'm questioning. Like, what's the relationship between Maya's mom and our protagonist's mom? Like, there's some tension there, and I kind of dig it. Like, they didn't feel the need to elaborate on it, but it's just hanging there. Yeah, because both moms, there are a lot of similarities, and they definitely, in the same way that, what's our protagonist's name? I forget. Oh no!
Does it start with a D?
Danielle, yeah,
Danielle,
or Danny,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Danielle. Just as Danielle and Maya are at the beginning are like, staring at each other from across the room, like positioning themselves so that they don't like come across each other. I feel like the two mothers and their placement in each conversation are also important in the way that they interact. And so it feels like it's nice to know. It feels like these people are, people who've had a history, and they're gathering this time.
Yeah, everyone here feels like they have a history. It's really cool. Yeah.
It is really cool. Yeah. I love the dad, how the dad's just there and doing his thing, and then I thought that the film might have made the mom, at first I thought the film would make the mom a bit more unpleasant, but I found it really surprising that the mom was always on Danielle's side. Like, every time Danielle wanted to leave, the mom was just like, sure, we can leave after I do a few things. Like, I thought that very refreshing, because if they're going for like the ambitious Jewish mother sort of trope, I really dug how Danielle's mom was just different.
I thought she was really great on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. Like when Danielle's mom said, I am proud of you and I don't think you're a loser, I genuinely believed it. It seemed like, she's coming from a loving mother's kind of view. It didn't seem like she was just trying to say it just because,
Yeah.
And that's the fact that the film could communicate that without needing some Oscar Beatty heart-to-heart confession scene, and just did it through casual dialogue, is indeed quite impressive.
They did have something close to a heart confession, but it was cut off very, very shortly, where she spills coffee on herself, and they retreat using the holy water and all that.
Right. Well, but at the same time, that whole spilling coffee on herself, there were a lot of things that kind of snowballed up to that, which I find really cool. Something that seems tangential, like a certain thing breaking, just adds to the tension. And I like how seamless that is. But at the same time, it did feel a little too theater-y for me, I guess.
Yeah. Another reason that this screams theater is how... I don't know if this is specifically a theater thing, but for me, I associate with theater is the comedy of errors trope, where like this thing leads to that thing, leads to that thing, leads to that thing,
right?
And everything is going wrong. Something I was so impressed in this film, though, was how constantly the relationships between the characters were changing and evolving so rapidly. It was so at a really, really breakneck pace.
Right.
Yeah.
Even at the beginning, it seemed interesting because, the guy she was seeing was like, or Max, that's his name. He was like sort of saying this dialogue that was literally just, being nice to her, Danielle, in a very facetious way. Like, oh yeah, I'm so glad you're a law student and everything. But you can tell he was faking it,
Yeah, you could tell that you were like, wait, is she into this?
Yeah, but then
she
Danielle
is into this. Wait, is she into this?
Right. But then Danielle kind of, I think, really appreciated him, and she reached in to kiss him, even though the relationship was established very clear that it was not a very intimate relationship in the emotional sense.
Go on, finish your thought.
So I knew that, and then so later on, when it seemed like she was seducing him upstairs and giving him, a good time, that made sense. It's like there was a sort of a low-key payoff to it. It's like, oh, that makes sense because I think she does like Max a bit more than just their relationship than their contract. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you gonna?
I have to share this thought that I had in the first 10 minutes of I had a thought of a really funny film recommendation that I would give, which ended up not being relevant at all. But I was going to give it as a joke in the beginning. Ready for this?
Yep.
Visitor Q.
No.
Which, for any of you who don't know that film, it's totally not related to this, but it's tangential for a very, very dumb reason. Okay.
Yeah.
But I will say,
not for the faint of heart, but similar runtime. So there you go.
True. Related to that, though, I thought the joke of having her cry "Daddy" and then having Daddy on the phone right afterward was such a really great way to kick everything off into a really uncomfortable place. They did it 3 times in a row. She cries "Daddy," she gets on the phone, she talks to Daddy, then she leaves the place, and then she talks to Daddy.
I'm so mad that I didn't get that.
Yeah,
that's good. No,
it's really good. Yeah,
that's excellent. Yeah, and then when he gave her the bracelet, I didn't know what that bracelet was, but I knew it was going to come into play at some point. Yeah, I guess I do enjoy how at the end we still don't know what the wife knows. I mean, she definitely knows, but
yeah, you can tell their relationship is happening, it's evolving somehow, but we don't get enough information to know for sure.
Yeah. And there were certain things that were tropey, she goes into the party and gets really close to him in a really flirty way just to piss off the wife. But in this film, it's very motivated. Yeah. So I really dug that. And her opinion on the baby is kind of changing, and it's very fun to watch that stuff, and in a really tense way. So yeah, you're right. And as a character, I really dug how she was kind of, she's got the Jewish background, but then she's also trying to escape from it. And there's this sort of a lesbian past that everyone knows, but everyone's trying to wipe underneath the mat. And yeah, no, there's a lot of layers to this.
They did actually come out once and just say that that she was bisexual, because they said enough between her mother and Danielle. Is that her name? They had enough of a conversation to reveal a very long argument that was between the mother and her about the mother thinking that it was just a phase experimentation, and the daughter just
Yes, I didn't hear that deep into that conversation.
Yeah, there's so much stuff you can miss in this film. It's
right.
It's crazy.
And the other thing is when that one lady who has to go to the bathroom shows up, and then that was when we expect someone important to show up. But then after she leaves, that's when we see the wife. So that's when we question how long has the wife been there?
Yeah,
she's been there the entire time. And I love how that's just unanswered, because I guess I don't know what I'm looking for from the very end of the film, but it didn't. I like all of the open ends that it leaves, but I think the getting in the car bit was a bit. It was too open ended. Just that gag at the end didn't seem like it was the right way to end it. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, that was a nice dive.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I think that's it either. I'm very drawn to these sorts of roller coasters because that's.
Yeah, and
I just
recording
love
this stuff is a roller coaster
I really enjoy
too, because
them.
we never know how long these are going to last. But this feels right.
Yeah, this feels right to end. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Oh,
unless there's something
it's
else.
interesting her vegetarianism and how that plays in.
I didn't get a lot from that.
Yeah.
What?
It just felt more like a device. I don't know what. Yeah, she just starts eating the fish at some point. The salmon.
It gave us an excuse to pay attention to what she was eating, because I found myself constantly saying, "Oh, is that meat? Is that meat? No, she's still not eating meat."
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're also questioning, like, what are the morals of the character and such.
I guess maybe it's the whole idea that she doesn't know what she's doing because, she chose a major that is.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. She chose a major that, the parents are kind of like just, treating it as neither here nor there. And
which,
judging from the way her character works, it seems like she chose it in a way that's neither here nor there either.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe the food she eats is a reflection of that. How, like, she has these beliefs, but she doesn't always follow them. But yeah, now that I think about it, it's not the most interesting thing in this film. It was a choice, and I'm glad it gave me something more to chew on, no pun intended.
Lol.
But no, didn't detract from it, but it didn't add too much to it. Yeah? I think we're good.
I think we're good too.
Okay.
Short one. Or was it short? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's like almost 40 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's not that short.
Yeah. Well, what? The last one we did for Earwig was like just underneath the runtime of the film, so I'd say
True.
This is...
Yeah. Well, that was us just complaining about nonstop stuff.
Oh, but yeah, we don't have to go back to that. All right. Well, this is it.
Yeah.
This is Shiva Baby. Oh, no, we do have to talk about something. Now that the title is super interesting.
Yeah.
So there's Shiva, which is a funeral, a Jewish funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And then Baby, which could be her. But Baby also is like, sugar daddy, sugar baby.
Mm-hmm.
But also like she's like faced with her parents, and the whole party thinks that she's a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like an actual baby in the funeral, which kind of becomes this pivot point for the character.
The title is as tight as the script. It's wonderful.
Yeah, what she thinks of Max. So yeah.
I thought she was gonna fucking kill the baby.
Yo, that would have not been great. That would have been.
I wasn't sure if it was gonna go that far, but I would not have been surprised if this has become just like a bloodbath of some sort of like.
I mean, the tension is there, but oof. I guess in that sense, I'm glad it stayed grounded.
It's probably better that it stayed grounded, but I mean,
yeah. Okay, no. Now that we're here, I did think about something I wanted to talk about, which is why is this such a Sundance film?
Okay.
We didn't really get into that. So the typical Sundance film is characters are offbeat. There's a coming of age aspect to it. Like they're in a transitional period in their life.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually a family involved. They reunite with their family in some way, or like, a long time sort of, people that I haven't seen for a long time go back to their childhood. And then there's a lot of comedy, a lot of funny stuff. It's lighthearted in general, but it's also really tight, really small scaled. It's a thriller. Editing is usually pretty sharp. It's just that small scaleness that's just so Sundance. I can't quite explain it, but there's a certain trope. And just if you haven't been to Sundance and if you're interested in like what I meant by that at the beginning, that's what I meant.
I can understand that. I actually bought the online Sundance thing this year, and I didn't do much with it. I did it mostly to see the VR material, but I also watched one series of shorts, and most of them were mostly unremarkable, but there are a few that come to mind that have that perfect description.
Interesting.
That are mostly...
Shiva Baby was a short.
Yeah, they're mostly recycles of the kind of thing that I've seen before in other films.
Right.
Which, I mean, is to be expected of work that is, probably from a more student or post-student caliber.
Yeah. Like Little Miss Sunshine's a Sundance film.
Oh. Yeah.
But that one's a bit better than most,
Mm-hmm.
I think 500 Days of Summer was a Sundance film, but that one was also a bit more ambitious than most.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like good examples. Like
Wait,
Sing
500
Street.
Days of Summer, the Adam Sandler film? No, that's 50 First Dates. Never mind.
Oh no! mean, which one's better, right? Which one's the better movie? I don't know.
Wow. I can't believe I just said that.
That's great. It's fantastic.
Man,
but yeah,
imagine an Adam Sandler movie being at Sundance. That would be incredible.
It would probably be like Punch Drunk Love or Uncut
Was that
Gems.
at Sundance? It would
No.
probably more likely be at like Cannes or something.
Oh. Well, they're also like, yeah, both Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems are from like established directors.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Sundance is for, if they could hire him, I mean, yeah, dude, go for it. Okay. Now that I've mentioned the Sundance thing, I think that's a good way to cap it.
Is there anything I'm forgetting?
I didn't write anything because I watched it myself.
Yeah, I didn't write anything either because I was I was just enthralled in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I can see that too. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, goodbye everybody.
Okay.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.